My name is Leon Mount here with my two cohorts, Mr. Ice, Trey the
What it do,
Game,
baby?
and Mr. Matt Clayton. So we have a very interesting topic here that we want to discuss today, and that is ultimately the effect of the Black church in politics today. There's been a lot of quarrels regarding the Black church's impact that it's had on the community for decades, and kind of its current status, which isn't necessarily been in the highest regard as of late. But we want to just kind of discuss, what's your thoughts in terms of the Black church and its impact on politics today, particularly within our community.
I think the Black church is a powerful force. If we can mobilize, if we can come together, and if we can really get to a point where we stop voting on Democrat, and Republican, and if we can get away from the culture wars, I think we'll be a force to reckon. Because if you think about it, the Black church is probably one of the very few institutions in our community that actually has some organization to it. And people generally, when you talk about church and you talk about God and religious and spirituality stuff, church folks, especially in our community, we go hard in paint. We just do. We do. And I think that's one of the advantages that we have in other cultures because we are united, at least in terms of the spiritual component. So if we can come together, and based on what I've read and the things that I've read, a lot of religious people are starting to say we're not a part of either party. We're just not. And I think it's something for us to tap into to say, okay, let's speak to that particular person and let's say, hey, you know what? I agree with you. We're not a part of any party as well. However, your vote does matter. Your vote has so much power and weight that not only corporations, but politicians and lobbyists, they do everything that their power to distract you through culture wars. So if we can get us away from the culture wars, away from the social issues, and say, hey, you know what? We all have the same skin color, and a lot of us have some of the same issues. So set aside the spiritual things and let's really focus on the key things. And I think the key things is we come together and unite our vote for our common good, then I think we can make some noise. But I do think to the question, yes, the Black church has tremendous impact on politics.
Yeah, I kind of want to dive into this Brookings Institute article that came out last year during the last election, right? So it's like a driving assumption, the study of U.S. politics is that African Americans overwhelmingly identify as Democrats and consistently vote for Democratic candidates when exercising their right to vote. However, these expectations, like those for black political ideologies, can no longer be accepted at face value, which I think we saw in the last election, right? And and they kind of say things like they kind of say different things. However, there are some notable exceptions. No less than 77% of Methodists and 74% of Baptists think of themselves as Democrats, while only 60% of non-denominational Protestants do so. Moreover, one-third of non-denominationals view themselves as independents, while more than half of religious non-affiliates do so. I think also what's happening is I think the black churches, it's still a significant role, but it's less of a role. Because I think one thing that's happening that's over the last 60 plus years is that as a group, we've kind of branched off into other different denominations of religions. Like, even within Christianity, right? So, you think about the old tradition was Baptist, Methodist. I know a lot of people go to non-denominational churches now. That's not something we did in large numbers before. I think that's a huge thing. And let's be honest, though. I think the black church, in terms of political influence, is still important, but I think it's dying because I think it's becoming so like they're insulated, right? Reading that the black church is sometimes talking about black church issues. When you think about 67 years ago, they were talking about issues of the community, right? So it seems like they kind of get very, very isolated and almost like stagnant. Where I think some of the most, to me, the most like progressive places and progressive churches have been like the non-denominational churches, in my opinion, over the last few years. I think a lot of the Catholic, Methodist, Baptist, they kind of got stagnant over the last few decades, in my opinion. So you kind of see the most progressive aspects of that. So those just kind of some of my opinions.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Matt. Particularly the diminishing impact that the black church has had on the black community over the decades, for a variety of reasons. Church attendance is down, and it has been consistently decreasing over over the last few decades in the Black community. I think that there has been a lack of trust within the community, and I think that's why the hold that the church had on the Black community in the past is no longer what it is. And I want to ask Ivory a question, because Ivory, I know you're a devout Christian and you're definitely a man of faith, but particularly dealing with politics in the Black church. And this is something I've always, held out the window as far as with Black people. How do you see it where they can, following the rules of the Bible as far as, get things not being gay, um, you know, um, transsexual, a lot of things that per se the Democratic Party pushes, anti-abortion or being about abortion. How do you intertwine those things if people are following their faith, but still being able to say, hey, I'm going to go against this for this group who a lot of times people are saying are pushing these things, and a lot of them really, you as well as I know, especially on the Republican side, a lot of them don't really give a damn about none of them. They're just pushing them to get votes. But for instance, the anti-abortion, they're against. But when they get their mistresses and side chicks knocked up, they're 100% for them. So what's your thought on that? Being a man of Christian and a man of faith.
Well, first of all, I want to denounce that I am not a Christian.
You're
I'm
not.
not a
Okay, I'm
Christian.
sorry.
No,
I'm
I am
sorry.
a follower of Christ. Big difference. Big difference. No, not your fault, but man, I think this Christian thing, everybody say they're Christian. Everybody, they claim to love Jesus. They wear the cross, and you see it every day. You see it in politics. You see it in your neighbors. You see it everywhere. You see it on the Instagram booty model. She got the booty in one hand and the Bible, the Bible thing in another hand on the same picture. So I just don't fall into that. So I would like to say from here on now, I am a follower of Christ. Okay. I follow him. But to answer your question, here's the deal. Let's just call it for what it is. Christianity, I always say this. I love your Christianity. I told this one guy this. I was talking to Matt, probably can attest to this. We were walking down in the city, and we were just strolling down the city, and this guy walked up to us and said, "Do you know Jesus? Do you know Christ?" And trying to put out that little Jesus marketing stuff on us. He comes up to us and say, he has this red hat on, and it's 4 words on the hat. I won't say the words, but it was 4 words on the hat, and he trying to tell me the same thing about Christ and how this particular person loves Christ and things, all this stuff. This person is from God himself, and I'm just like rolling my eyes, side-eyeing this guy. So I told the guy, I said, I love your Christianity, I love your Christ, but I don't like your Christianity. And it's two different things because again, most people are what I call cultural Christians. They they go to church, they grew up in church, they go to church for Easter, or maybe they wear a cross. They got all the cultural signs that they're a Christian, but their heart is so far from God, they don't even know who God is. God could be calling them right now. They'd be like, who, what? They don't know who God is. Okay. So let's just call that what it is. That's the human condition. We're all hypocrites and rebels against God in our own way. But to answer the question in 30 seconds, the thing is this: we can't get caught up. You can't afford as a Christian or as to be a single issue voter. That's where Republicans kill you and Democrats kill you by just pretty much trying to make sure that they lean on your faith to get you to vote and say, well, you died as a slave and your ancestors was a slave, and you like it's like stop playing with people's faith. So I think we need to be as followers of Christ. If you are a follower of Christ, you need to use your discernment, but you also need to understand the issues because you can't just vote because somebody had a cross on, and you can't vote for those reasons anymore. It's too complex. The landscape is too complex. You need to have a grounded understanding of what the issues are, and you need to vote accordingly.
So are you saying when we take a look at, let's say, Donald Trump, when he's holding up the Bible, and though he doesn't know a single verse, we should take less heed to that and more heed to the man who has cheated on multiple wives,
I think we
which
need to
is
take
against the Bible?
I think we need to pay attention to people's actions. Actions speak louder than words. And I can say all the day that I'm a follower or whatever. I can have the John 3:16 quote, but we need to pay attention to people's actions. And again, we all are hypocrites in some way, shape, or form. We all are rebels against God in some way, shape, or form. But the difference is this, Leon. The difference is that it's the matters of the heart. Like I know when I'm being a hypocrite in certain ways, But that doesn't mean I'm gonna go out here. If I'm doing some crazy stuff behind the scenes, I'm not gonna blast you publicly and say, hey man, you shouldn't be doing this and that. And I'm doing it behind closed doors. That's when it becomes hypocritical to me. So I just think we all need to just calm down, take a step back, and understand that we all make mistakes and we all have flawed logic and flawed thinking, and we need to vote accordingly. And this point I want to say about the Democrats, because a lot of people think that the Democrats are just for abortion. And this is something that really just drives me crazy. I think they're for choice. The choice is the woman to make that decision, not the government. That's what they're saying. Now they message it pretty badly, but it's really the choice to choose whether you want to go through that procedure with you, your family, your doctor, whatever, versus the government mandating you to take a to do it or not to do it. So I think that's one of the big issues. I think it's a messaging thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I would just say, I think in terms of politics in the black church, I mean, as your community progresses and grows, the separation becomes like, more important. So what I mean by that is that I think you go back 60, 70 plus years, like I said, the black church was very in tune with what was happening in the community. And I think in terms of the things that are happening politically, I don't think that any church in general is able to solve these kind of complex problems or really address these kind of complex problems, right? I think it's really the role of the church, and I think particularly the black church, to kind of speak to what's the suffering and the issues that's happening with the people on the day to day, like a more, social justice aspect. But sometimes you get kind of lost in all kind of, for lack of a better word, stupid shit. I mean, people are, you get caught up in like tradition. You get caught up, like you said, abortion rights, non-abortion rights. You get caught up in all these different stupid things. You even get like a whole movement of black conservatives, right? That's a whole nother tangent that I probably have to get on a different day. But I just think that you end up with all these different viewpoints. And I put it like this. Sometimes the black church has become a spot where people who go to it, they have an axe to grind, and they use the church to grind that axe. Maybe they had the issue with the culture, so they use the church to do that. So I think that's one of the issues, is that a lot of people just have an axe to grind with certain aspects of the environment or the community they don't like, and they bring that into the church. That it kind of ruins a lot of the core message that the church can actually have in a time like this. Because if I was running a black church, I'd sit here and say, you know what? One thing I'm gonna focus on is community growth, both from economic opportunities, economic growth, as well as community awareness, political awareness. Those are the things that I would focus in on. I wouldn't get too caught up on who you vote for, because if you are an informed voter, you're more likely to make the best choice for your family, right? And I hate to say this, but people always say that essentially the truth tends to kind of lean little to the left in this country, especially nowadays. So I think that's what I was focused primarily on.
For sure. And going back to what you said, Ivory, I think one of the biggest issues as far as the diminishment of the black church and the black community over the last few decades has been hypocrisy. I think that's why a lot of people no longer trust the black church. And I think that's led to its downfall, particularly over the last few decades, is that people preach one thing and live something else. And at that point, you lose credibility. So, but we do want to hear from you. What's your thought, as well as just our community in general? Make sure you guys go ahead, comment below. We want to hear what you have to say, good and or bad, about the church. Also, too, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe to our channel as we continue to grow. We definitely appreciate all the support, and we're going to continue to keep bringing you these great tidbits and news stories that affect us as a community as we move toward the Black Agenda 2028 that we're continuing to build, as we going to take these issues to politicians and make sure that they're held accountable, as we do understand the power of our vote. We'd like to thank you for joining us once again, and we are UBV, and we are out.